So here in Holyford Woods, we try and employ the most natural approach to woodland management as we can. And in areas where we need to regenerate either old and degenerating woodland or woodland that's been dominated by one species disproportionately, we try and use the most natural approach we can. So this was an area that was solid holly cover, and consequently no light got to the woodland floor, and it was becoming very monocultural, just the holly, pretty much nothing else. The problem is when we cut back the holly that was making the big stands, ordinarily this would bush up into what's called a coppice. Pretty much all deciduous trees will do that, but there are so many roe deer in this woodland that as the holly regrows, even with its tough fibrous leaves and prickly outer defences, the roe deer can get in here early, nibble off all the regrowth that's tender and sweet, and it never gets a look in. Now, looking around on the woodland floor, now the light's getting down, there are occasional little seedlings just bursting up, but without any protection, they'll go the same way as the holly trying to recoppice itself. But help is at hand from nature, and down here is the Woodland Regeneration Natural Tree Guard. Now, you could plant up a load of trees in here, all in a little plastic pipe with a bamboo stick to keep them upright, and eventually, if luck goes with you, you might get a woodland. But it would be a woodland that had been designed with human intent. Whereas if you let nature regenerate, especially within a woodland setting, but largely anywhere in lowland Britain, you'll get a woodland befitting of the species that are around there. And bramble, once it gets going, grows quicker than a roe deer can graze it back, and provides that prickly structure so that any of these little saplings can just germinate up through the soil, push their way through the bramble, and eventually shade the bramble out, and then go on to grow and create an understory, an upper canopy, and a natural woodland setting with species that have put themselves where they can be. And if you don't believe that that's actually possible, there's a little bit of woodland here at Holyford across the valley that I'd be really keen to show you. So this area of the woods is known as the Hangings, and back in 2005 we clear-felled it of a huge crop of conifer trees that were planted some 70 years beforehand. That monoculture of Douglas fir had completely shaded out the hillside, and walking through here was dark and tunnel-like, and on the ground pretty much only ivy survived. We were very lucky to be allowed to invest in natural regeneration of the woodland afterwards on certain provisos put in place by the Forestry Commission, but we used bramble as our tree guard. So the bramble shot up. First thing we had was the most amazing display of foxgloves for the first 2 years, but after that the bramble just dominated, and you can see it here. It's 6 foot up in the air, and it's an absolute impenetrable forest in there, but light does permeate through, and so in those intervening 16 years we've got all the seed bank of trees from the ancient woodland thrusting their way back up through. Primarily birch to begin with, and those grow very quickly. A bit of willow, hazel, but there's also oak and ash up there, and rowan, and it is just so exciting to see a natural woodland just birthing itself out of the ground. And as these trees develop, where they've got a little bit of a head start further round the corner in more sunlight, their canopy starts to branch out, and suddenly you can walk underneath them because the bramble has died back. So it is possible. All it takes is the courage of your convictions and a good dollop of patience, but that is the essence of woodland management.